Good morning, welcome to CATEX-TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. This is a live broadcast from Princeton, New Jersey. Today is Friday, June 18th, 2010. It's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time in the U.S. It's 4:30 p.m. in London and Hamilton. Hamilton is 12:30 p.m. In Mexico City, it's 10:30 a.m. If you need to reach us during the broadcast, please call us toll-free on our number 866-67-CATEX. If you're overseas, our AOL instant mail address is CATEX-TV. On this date in 1815, 195 years ago, in a little village in Belgium called Waterloo, the combined forces of the UK and the Prussians, led by Mr. Wellington, defeated Napoleon, and that was finally the end of Napoleon. Today's birthdays: Sir Paul McCartney is 68 years old today. Happy birthday. We have some breaking news. SpaghettiOs. The Campbell Soup Company in Camden, New Jersey, which produces SpaghettiOs, this morning recalled 15 million pounds of SpaghettiOs due to a malfunction at one of their cooking plants in Texas. That's a lot of SpaghettiOs. Now to our main news. Well, look at this picture. This is Tony Hayward making his way by himself, alone, to the witness table, surrounded by possibly as many as 50 photographers, facing a group of 42 hostile inquisitors, all but one, as we'll mention in a minute. Yesterday was his day in front of the Congress. British media had some interesting comments about Mr. Hayward's appearance. PR expert Mark Borkowski wrote in the Daily Telegraph that Hayward couldn't or wouldn't answer most of the questions. In fact, he looked like a tired undertaker who was rather bored with having to look mournful. He said the man has the communication skills of a tax inspector, dry and arrogant. It's incredible that one of the most important corporate jobs in the world has been entrusted to him. The commentator said that Mr. Hayward's tone was likened to, quote, that of a weary registrar in a South London crematorium. The FT said that Hayward withdrew, quote, into a firmly defensive posture during the early part of the hearing. He performed, they said, as he was presumably coached to do, looking remorseful and grim and refusing to be drawn into specifics about the causes of the accident. In fact, Hayward's only comfort came when, preposterously enough, a Republican member of the committee said that the White House plan for a BP contributed compensation fund for $20 billion was in effect a shakedown, and in fact was nothing more than a slush fund. And in fact, preposterously, this man, Congressman Barton from Texas, apologized to BP for the actions taken on behalf of the U.S. government. Not 1 hour later, after being beaten about the head severely by Republican leadership, Mr. Barton then apologized back to the committee and to anybody who may have heard him for his initial apology to BP, saying that it had been misconstrued. One of the most interesting things from the Daily Mail said that the BP boss was treated like public enemy number one by American politicians, and that the chief executive was subject to a grilling so savage yesterday it was more like ancient Rome than Capitol Hill. The Independent's Rupert Cornwell probably hit it the best. He described congressional hearings as a 21st century version of the medieval stocks that is one of the signature rituals of American democracy. Well, on to the meat of the matter for the next story. Last night, BP reported one of its highest yet rates of oil retrieval from the big leak. They said that they had picked up 8,000 barrels during the first 12 hours of yesterday and burned off 4,500 more barrels for a total of 12,500 barrels. This is one of the highest half-day rates it's reported. But the spill is still flowing at about 60,000 barrels a day. There's another big problem, that's methane. Vast amounts of the natural gas are probably included in the massive spill. The methane is 40% methane in purity, compared with about 5% found in typical oil deposits. The impact on methane on the ecosystem could be very unpredictable. It means that huge quantities of the gas have entered the Gulf, potentially suffocating marine life and creating dead zones where oxygen is so depleted that nothing lives. One scientist at Texas A&M said, quote, "This is the most vigorous methane eruption in modern human history." Methane, of course, is a colorless, odorless substance that is a major component of natural gas. It's used to heat people's homes. Petroleum engineers typically burn off excess gas attached to crude oil before shipping it off to the refinery. This is exactly what BP has done, as it has captured more than 7.5 million gallons of crude from the well. BP said the company was burning about 30 million cubic feet of natural gas daily from the crude well. That comes to about enough gas to heat about 450,000 homes for 4 days. In the UK, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne, confirmed in his speech at Mansion House last night that he will give the Bank of England the key role in regulating the UK financial sector. The Financial Services Authority will, quote, "cease to exist in its current form." Osborne said he would abolish the current system of financial regulation. He said that FSA CEO Hector Sanz, who had been due to leave this summer, has agreed to stay on for the transition, which they hope will be completed in 2 years. The Chancellor criticized the current system of regulation, divides responsibility between the BOE, the FSA, and the Treasury. He said no one was controlling the levels of debt, and when the crunch came, no one knew who was in charge. As expected, the Chancellor confirmed that the FSA would be broken up, and the part that monitors financial institutions, i.e. insurance companies, would continue as a, quote, "new prudential regulator," but would operate as a full subsidiary of the Bank of England. The parts that protect consumers and tackle crime will be given respectively to a new Consumer Protection Agency and an Economic Crime Agency. How does this all affect the industry, the insurance and reinsurance industry? The Insurance Daily had some interesting remarks on that today. The regulatory cost burden facing the UK insurance industry will increase, with insurers and brokers facing the prospect of dealing with two regulators. The insurance regulation is going to be split, with insurers and brokers regulated by different entities. The insurers will fall under the new Prudential Regulatory Group. Brokers will now be regulated by a separate Consumer and Markets Authority. That's very interesting. But both brokers and insurers face a risk of additional costs as a result of the reforms. Insurance Day is reporting that going forward, even those who don't deal with consumers will have to deal with both regulators, one for prudential matters and another for conduct of business issues. It's also thought that the 2-year integration or transition is quite optimistic in terms of the timescale, and some of the concerns being expressed by industry analysts are whether or not this is the right time to be making such significant changes to the regulatory architecture. That's a very good point. You're going to redo the way insurance and reinsurance is regulated and brokers are regulated at a time when the house is on fire. You're going to have to be very careful. Well, there's a big conference going on down in Bermuda, as we know, the Insurance Day Summit, and Brian Duperreault, who is the CEO of Marsh Mac, has been in the news. He lives in Bermuda. He's a well-known Bermudian. He said that Bermuda's success as a leading insurance and reinsurance domicile is sustainable, with the island being, quote, "just one crisis away from being able to show its true value." He warned delegates in the conference that the island faced a number of internal and external challenges, such as the U.S. government's attempt to shut off the tax breaks, additional regulatory issues, and crime in Bermuda. He said that such problems were not unique to Bermuda. He said, quote, "Bermuda is a cyclical place. It does not grow in a straight line to the sky. It wrenches forward and it declines." He said, "We have incredible growth, then they start running it off. We have capital come in, then it goes away. We have new companies formed, they do well, then they consolidate. This isn't different than what happens anywhere else in the world. If it is cyclical, that means declines are usually followed by increases. We're frankly the best in a crisis. That's how we make our mark in the world." Other people on the same panel, following Mr. Duperreault, actually said, "We hope a major catastrophe occurs and then